Canadians when we recognize the treaties are a relationship and they are an ongoing work of reconciliation. I think it's fitting that this event is happening in advance of the IPCC Cities and Climate Change conference that's happening next week. As I have often observed about this IPCC event, Alberta used to run from international climate change conversations. We used to hide from these conversations. Now we host them. And so that is a real change in this province, and it's a change that people like you
who are coming from across the planet and who are going to tell their stories of what climate change looks like in their reality. So often we hear about climate change as this theoretical thing happening overseas to some other people who you never know and will never meet. Today you will meet them. Today you have a chance to come and see pictures of not some city far away, but a city that belongs to them, right? Walking down the streets, experiencing the effects of climate change that happen to their family, that happen to their friends, that happen to their neighbors, that our choices here today, wherever we happen to be going, have an incredible impact on. Ladies and gentlemen, almost a year ago I sat down with the IPCC's planning committee and had a conversation about a unique vision they had for the first time ever of hosting the IPCC Cities and Climate Change Conference. You see, typically for these international conferences, what happens is the leaders of today sit around a board table or at conference rooms and they decide what's going to happen for the youth of the future. Right? While those same youth of the future are standing on sidewalks on the outsides of buildings, trying to have their voice heard. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the unique vision that the City of Edmonton had, that the Government of Alberta had, that IPCC had, that CC40 had, in which they had a vision to bring the youth off of the sidewalks and into the boardrooms. Right, where they had a vision for making a legitimate voice heard from the youth who are participating. And since then, over 5,000 youth have participated from 13 countries. They spent thousands of hours sharing their work, working towards solutions, wrestling with the complexities of climate change, cities, and education, with a goal of being one of 30 core sessions that are going to be shared next week to the leaders and policymakers of our planet. Today, you will hear from some of these youth, right? From Beijing to Bogota, from Indonesia to Edmonton. They are here today to share the reality of climate change in their cities. And they are here to share the reality of the action they are taking in partnership with you to make a difference. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the youth of the planet who will come and share their stories with you. Let's hear it for our youth.
So when we talk about climate change, it's not just thing that we talk like a simple problem we have faced every day. We're talking about the continuance of our species on planet Earth. My name is Pedro, I'm from São Paulo in Brazil. And now I have a question from all you guys in here. Have you ever imagined getting home after a busy day in office or a busy day at college and like, oh, I need a shower, and you just go there, turn on, there's no water, and you can't even drink water? Well, there's a problem we faced in 2014 and 2015 in São Paulo. We were struck by a huge water crisis. People could stay from hours until weeks without any water, because of the rain season wasn't enough to fill the reservoirs and fuel the population. But the fact is, at the same time, many people were suffering from the climate change. People like me in my neighborhood, they don't have a problem with the water at all, because we're a very developed area, so we could have water from other dams. And then, when it rains more than expected, we have floods, caused by not only the fact of the geography in Brazil, because it's a very mountain diverse project, but it also caused by other stuff. During floods, many people lose their cars, miss their homes, and sometimes their own lives. Well, traffic jam and rush hour are the disastrous combination that can create angry people and a huge amount of carbon dioxide production. Because that's the effect of the quantity of the cars and the quantity of people going to work at the same time. This image shows a traffic jam of 700 kilometers during a holiday in São Paulo. And now I'm heading to the Amazon. You may ask me, well, we were talking about São Paulo and then you just jumped into the Amazon. What's the point? I'll explain to you all guys. So, you all here present may know that the Amazon rainforest has a huge problem with deforestation. But what you may not know is that the problem of the deforestation is heading to São Paulo. Because all the water that goes to São Paulo is originating from the Amazon rainforest. All these white parts in the image were rivers, but because of deforestation, they all got dried out. That's the main reason why you have the water crisis problem back in 2014. And about my reality in my school, we do some actions that can help with climate change. We have a compost machine that we get all the compost from our meals in our cafeteria and we transform into fertilizers. Their fertilizers are used in our garden to make our own vegetables. And we have a solar future. We use solar energy in order to clean dirty water and use this clean water to use in our garden as well. Well, these actions may not be directly considered to climate change, but the process that involves them. Like we produce less garbage using the compost machine, and we can reuse water that was considered dirty. Thank you all for your attention.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevina from Lab School Cibubur Senior High, Indonesia. And today I would like to tell you a little story about my city, Bekasi. So, Bekasi is located around 20 minutes from the capital city of Indonesia, that most of its inhabitants work in Jakarta. With very limited natural resources, Bekasi's economic growth is highly impacted by Jakarta. Every day, there are around 2,500 people coming in and out of Bekasi for work. Most of them are using public transportation and the rest choose their own vehicle. In this case, motorcycle and cars. Because of that, the level of pollution also continuously increases. Since my city, Bekasi, doesn't have natural resources, the city depends on business group by allowing them to build more shopping malls and apartments. The other problem that we're facing here is that the buildings of these facilities cause disasters. The worst effect is floods. So far, the government of Bekasi has provided some solution in reducing the risk. They have joined projects with the government of Jakarta and other cities to build a LRT and subways. They also have a car-free day program where you cannot use your vehicle every Sunday from 6 to 10 a.m. I helped to write the compilation about the benefits of car-free day program, which was published by the government to help educate the people. Also, the government has a program of planting 1,000 trees. Besides handling the pollution, our government also make the best use of recycled products. For example, making dress out of used bottles and product packaging for the fashion show and hanging pots. Government is not the only one that has a concern on climate change, but the schools also support the climate change program. At my school, the students learn how to use newspapers, leaves, and unused fabrics into something more useful. Other programs are having trash bins sorted by colors to indicate the garbage, 1 class 1 tree program, and planting mangroves to prevent abrasion. Soon, I hope whenever I open my door, I'll see beautiful garden, breathe fresh air with no pollution, traveling in a city without any traffic jam, and no news on floods or other disasters anymore. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let's save our Earth.
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Chung from Queen Elizabeth High School, Edmonton, Alberta. I am proud that our city, Edmonton, is hosting a intergovernmental panel on climate change where youth from all over the globe come and talk about climate change. I'll be talking about climate change efforts in Edmonton and youth participation in these events. Winter has always been a part of Edmonton. Long and extreme winters is a culture in Edmonton. However, due to climate change, we will have less time to enjoy recreational activities in winter compared to those of summer. Edmonton's also showing unprecedented precipitation patterns. Not just in Edmonton, it's same to Alberta in general. So, what is our city doing to combat climate change issues? We constructed bike lanes to discourage vehicle usage. Also, currently, our whole bus fleet, which runs in diesel, is undergoing a shift to run more on electricity. This will make a huge difference. Edmonton is also known for energy industry, but the real energy asset is youth. Youth in Edmonton is very active in their local communities to combat climate change. Future Ready combines education and training for the future, where they're slowly phased into more green sources of energy. Towards the New Generation Youth Program acknowledges youth that forests exist not just in forests and wildlife, but also in cities as well. The students of TANG program are able to plant trees. Climate change doesn't just exist in urban areas, but in forest and mountain areas as well. That's where the Canadian Wildlife Federation comes in. They sponsor Edmonton students to experience these firsthand. These efforts are alive at my high school as well. We recently installed 2 tower gardens. These gardens use aeroponic technology, which is the process of growing plants using the air. Aeroponic technology can grow plants 30% faster, with 3 times the yield and 90% less space. The flag of the United Nations is proudly hung outside Queen Elizabeth High School. It represents that we are a UNESCO school and we follow UNESCO values, and we follow the 4 themes of study and 4 pillars of learning, which one of them education for sustainable development. By hosting the first climate change conference where the voices of the youth is heard loud and clear, Edmonton is able to be a leader in climate change, a world leader in solving climate change. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Natalia and I'm representing my school, St. Austin's Academy, which is located in Nairobi, Kenya. As you may or may not know, Nairobi is a developing city, which is currently facing a rapid growth of infrastructure due to all of the new buildings and businesses that are coming up. Climate change has significantly affected food production and agricultural businesses in Kenya. The rising temperature exposes millions of people to drought and to hunger. Climatic variability has presented a threat to food security through its effect on rainfall, soil moisture, and crop production. Kenya is adjusting to life without plastic bags after a strict ban went into effect a few months ago. The bags clog sewers, streams, and damage soils and other water sources, as well as the animals that consume them. In Nairobi's slaughterhouses, some cows destined for human consumption had 20 bags removed from their stomachs. Kenya's law allows police to go after anyone seen carrying a plastic bag. It took Kenya 3 attempts over 10 years to finally pass the ban. Failure to comply with the ban will result in a fine of $38,000 with the alternative of a 4-year jail term. The Greenbelt movement, which was founded by Professor Wangari Maathai, is an indigenous non-governmental grassroots organization, which was founded to respond to the needs of farmers who reported that their streams were drying up and that the food supply was less secure. As a school, we have become aware of the dangers of climate change. Thus, our school has encouraged tree planting projects around the city. Our school runs eco-clubs, which gives us the opportunity to go out, plant trees, and learn about environmental conservation. And I can testify that this has definitely helped us to develop a love for environmental conservation. I'd like to conclude by saying that no challenge poses a greater threat to future generations than climate change. And with that, all that said and done, it's time to take action. Change begins with you and with me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Judy from Beijing, China. Beijing is the capital and one of the biggest cities in China. When we talk about climate changes in Beijing, smog is what most people will think of. The main cause of smog is the burning of the coal. There were a lot of factories in Beijing and the provinces near the city. The particulate matter which is produced by the factories causes smog. The sky was always gray and there were the smell of coal in the air. The government is making a lot of effort in reducing smog in Beijing, and we have achieved big progress during the past 2 years. We changed the way of heating from burning coal into natural gas. It is more expensive, but the result is beyond expectation. We can look up at blue sky, which we could barely see a year ago. Besides the government, some firms were beginning to realize the importance of carbon emission to climate change. And that's how shared bikes appeared. Shared bikes are convenient. We can just grab one in the street corner and leave it when we finish riding. Just imagine your home is a mile from the subway station. You'll be like, I'll just take a taxi. I'm not walking for a mile. But if you have a shared bike beside you, you'll be more likely to ride a bike so that you can save money and reduce carbon emission at the same time. According to our national survey, most people are interested in climate change, but they are not willing to pay for it and they do not usually talk about it. What is happening in China is that people tend to rely on the government and they do not respond. I've realized the lack of reaction in the topic climate change, so my friends and I proposed to the Students' Union to change the paper plates and plastic knives and forks into the ones we can use repeatedly. Also, a few students in our school placed plastic boxes beside the printers so that we can put waste paper inside and others can use it for scratch paper. This may seem small changes for you, but I believe it will have a great impact on our school. So at last, I wish we can have fresh air and blue sky in the future. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Sahani Giroti of New Delhi, India, and I am going to take you through stories of climate reality in my hometown as well as actions being taken to combat it. New Delhi is the capital of India and is always buzzing with and crawling with people in traffic. Delhi is widely known for its culture and festivals during which it is lit up with bright smiles and joy. Diwali is a festival when the citizens get together and enjoy a day lighting firecrackers and lanterns. As exciting as this may sound, then its negative impacts are huge. The Diwali of 2017 brought the worst smog that has ever been experienced by the citizens of Delhi and made it amongst the most polluted cities in the world. With the air drowning in toxic pollution, several flights were cancelled and schools, including my own, were shut down for weeks. Several of my friends as well as family struggled to breathe and asthma attacks were common. An AQI represents the Air Quality Index. It is a tool used by governments to communicate how polluted the air currently is. Anything above 300 on the scale is deemed hazardous. Here in Delhi, we saw the levels rise to 999, more than thrice the amount deemed hazardous, therefore risking our lives 3 times more. This article highlights how Delhi air is likely to become the most hazardous in 10 years. Last year, 8 people were dying every day because of pollution, and 1/3 of the children developed some sort of respiratory problem. Now, another extremely pressing issue is the fact that the winter season in Delhi is beginning to become shorter, and global warming is one of the most significant factors contributing to this change. The existence of these problems continue to daunt us every day, and therefore the people of New Delhi have begun to take up many initiatives. Firstly, my friends and I have begun a project called Watch Your Waste that targets installing dustbins and spreading awareness about this waste segregation. Numerous people are unaware about the need to segregate waste and how to go about it. Therefore, my friends and I go to several government schools to educate children about waste segregation. We have installed a green dustbin for wet waste, a blue dustbin for dry waste, as well as a brown dustbin for e-waste. Our school actively participates in anti-cracker campaigns. Each year, children from my school prepare handcrafted posters and move through the city distributing leaflets as well as making people pledge to not burst crackers. Paper recycling is becoming increasingly popular. My school has a paper recycling unit that collects waste paper generated from classrooms and converts it into reusable paper. This image depicts the students of my school making paper bags out of newspapers. These newspaper bags are sent down to markets where people use them instead of plastic bags. An effective project taken up is the Adopt a Tree campaign that focuses on making the people of Delhi begin tree plantations in their colony. This project encourages and allows people to adopt trees. Our school's children decided to make seed bands. There are friendship bands with a seed in the center. This allows people to grow plants by simply planting these bands in the soil. Lastly, several schools in Delhi participate in e-waste collection drives. Students gather e-waste from their homes and deliver it to their schools. The schools then hand over this waste to NGOs where it is recycled. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Sophie, this is David, and we are representing Colombia, specifically Bogota. So Bogota is an overpopulated city and massive industrial center. That nowadays we are living the effects of climate change. So we may start explaining you how it all began.
In 1951, Bogota and its surroundings had no more than 750,000 inhabitants. It was basically more rural than urban, but currently we have grown to more than 10.2 million of people, having as consequence uncontrolled urbanization and thousands of cars in the streets.
With the time, people started receiving directly toxic gases. As you can see, they received the toxic gases that public transportation buses made, but also our common actions started to contaminate our environment.
In 2014, Colombia produced only 0.37% of greenhouse gas emissions globally. We are some of the countries that produce less but are the most vulnerable, so that the government, what the government has made is they brought electric taxis. There are multiple green walls on buildings, and airboat was installed to purify the air of 60,000 people, and companies have opted to change to renewable energy and solar. All these to mitigate the impact of climate change in our city, therefore in the world.
Okay, despite of the effort that so many people have done to change the situation in Bogota, our sky is completely turning gray. So the government took action and established 2 days per year in which we cannot use our cars, just only public transportation systems. And in this image you have a normal day in the left part and a day without car, and you can see the difference without smog. The wetlands and the little rivers that are in Bogota dry and flood very frequently, causing these kind of phenomena are happening because of urbanization.
My school encourages an environmentalist mentality by projects. For example, the environmental program called Pride. Through this program, we teach students since they are small to separate wastes. And on the cafeteria, the organic wastes are delivered to local farmers so that they can make food for their animals.
So this is a little bit about me. I really like nature. I really enjoy it, but I recognize that I have this big responsibility to be the voice of the planet. So I started my project of the moss wall, is the little picture in the high part. And with this project, I started with my best friend, and with it, my dream to make a change.
Other environmentalist projects that I have made at school are some, for example, an ecological project that, which my team and I had to make a vote with recyclable materials and compete with other universities and colleges. In my last school project, I did seeds made of used tires, and I tried to raise awareness through social media, because ignorance is one of the most biggest barriers to fight against climate change.
So, thanks to this project, to the IPCC conference, and all the actions that we have taken in Colombia and in Bogota, we have been invited to different newspapers and media that they are interested in know how can they apply our ideas. So, our dream is to take all the ideas that you have and bring them to Colombia to start the change. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shauna Kelly and I'm from the Career and Technology Center in Calgary, Alberta. Today I'm going to be representing not only Calgary, but also the Alberta Climate Leadership Youth Network. So today is a pretty interesting day. Today we're in Edmonton, which is just 3 hours away from the oil sands and the third largest oil reserve in the world. This industry makes up a quarter of Alberta's entire economy and tends to overshadow our huge potential for solar and wind energy. Our province is also the center of debate about climate change. In Alberta, we are seeing major opposing political views with differences in how our current leaders view climate change, and many lively discussions take place between our political leaders. Our mayor in Calgary is never one to back away from these lively discussions either. In a conservative, redneck oil province, we elected North America's first Muslim mayor, who not only believes in climate change, but is acting to mitigate and adapt to it. Take our urban sprawl issue, for example. In New York in comparison has 7 times more people per square kilometer than Calgary. This is because Calgary has been growing out instead of up. And the issue with this is that Calgary's majority of work is in the core of our city, so more roads are being filled with cars because people are trying to commute to work. One thing that the city is doing to help adapt and mitigate to this is expanding our current LRT system and powering it by wind energy. Some of these lively discussions have been sparked more because Calgarians are currently seeing the effects of climate change. In recent years, we have seen a big increase in how intense our weather has become and how frequently changing it has become. In 2015, we had a major flood, and last year we experienced some major droughts that caused forest fires and decreased our air quality. People are becoming more aware of where our electricity comes from, and we are attempting to wean ourselves off of our dependence on coal-burning power. Another amazing action by the City of Calgary is our Mayor's Environmental Expo. Now, this is an annual event in Calgary, and youth are able to showcase their environmental projects. One of these projects that my school is working on, we work on several projects such as growing microgreens, aquaponics systems, and are youth ambassadors at many energy and environmental conferences. As I'm also representing the Alberta Climate Leadership Youth Network, as David Dodge mentioned earlier, we held a virtual town hall in which students throughout rural and urban Alberta got to speak with Rachel Notley, our Premier, and discuss youth education surrounding the environment and climate change. Some of the other amazing work we've done was writing a white paper that offered student recommendation on how we can incorporate more environmental education. The result of these two projects was the creation of a $9 million fund for solar panels on schools.
So, hello everyone, my name is Nait and I'm representing Slovenia in this IPCC Climate and Change project, Climate and City project. And Slovenia is a very small country in Europe, and you can only imagine how small can my hometown, which also happens to be one of the smallest cities in Slovenia, be. But there's something I already learned through this project, and that's that it's not important how big the country is or how big the city is, because when we are talking about climate change, we are not representatives of our own country, but we are representatives of humanity. It also happens to be one of the oldest towns in Slovenia, and it has the biggest artificial lake. As you can predict, this lake is home to many species. But what are we doing lately and consequently affecting those animals in that lake? We have a lot of traffic, and we are often badly organized because we usually travel alone in our car, and that's why we are creating way more carbon emissions than we could. A lot of homes in Slovenia are old buildings and they are using fossil fuels for heating. In fact, fossil fuels are even cheaper, and that's why more and more people are returning to those ways of heating. And that's probably why our carbon footprint is that big, because if I would use 3.5 Earths, and I'm not driving a car, I don't travel a lot by car, I'm not really big of a consumer, how many Earths would a real grown-up use? Of course, my community is doing some hard work trying to reduce climate change, trying to make our city even more environmentally friendly. We have organized free city bus, which is for everyone. We have a lot of green zones, and we don't have big industrial zones. And also, quickly after it was spread around the world, we organized parking lots with charging stations for electric cars. Action is more important than talking is something that I was taught, and that is why on Gymnasium TUI we are doing some hard work trying to also reduce climate change. So we have many projects connected to the environment. One of those is Environmental Online, during which we plant a tree in front of our school. Then we also have Model United Nations Conference, and one of the committees is Environmental Committee. And we will also organize a special day when all the students and teachers will come to school by public transport, by bike, or walk to it. I'm also doing some actions because I usually use my bike to go to the city or to the school, and since I'm a huge animal lover, I'm trying to reduce my carbon emissions in order to provide them a healthier life. On one of the conferences, Carrie asked us if we had an opportunity to speak in front of our whole community, what would we say? We are all present here are someone, daughter, mother, sister, brother. What we value the most is our family. I'm a citizen of TUI, citizen of Slovenia, but I'm also a citizen of Earth. I am part of one big family. We all are. Look what we have already achieved, what we have already done. Sadly, climate change is the biggest thing we have done on this planet. So let's value this Earth family and create something that is even bigger, our movements to stop it. If we don't make an action, the Earth as we know will disappear. We must fight for this family, we must act, we can make a change because we are powerful, we are fearless. It doesn't matter if you're 10, 18, 22 or 93, we all can make a change, and together we can create a story of human ambition. Thank you.
Thank all of the students for providing their voices, their context, for coming all of this way to share their story with us. And I think that what we've learned is that the problems are big and complex, but the solutions are A, within all of our grasp, and B, actually really quite straightforward. The solutions are around waste diversion, they're around transportation, how we get our electricity, how we move ourselves around, what our buildings look like, and how we power them. And they're also around conservation. about making that connection to nature. And so those are the priorities that we've identified as a government, and I'm glad that the work that we have sponsored has resulted in many of those same stories coming from around the world, so that we can learn from some of those success stories and some of those opportunities. So with that, I think we are now moving into the panel conversation. So thanks to everyone for your hard work, for keeping it to the time that you were asked to. You did a great job. You'll be bad politicians in that way. And I really, really want to express my appreciation for, I'm sure, what was a lot of hard work on the part of your parents to get you here, and your communities, and your school communities, and your broader communities, because we are all richer when we can make these kinds of connections with one another. Thank you.